Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm sound okay? Can you hear me? Okay. And also, welcome back, everyone, online and in the room. Today, I'm going to talk about nitrosamine safety assessment in generic drug from a pharm tox perspective. This presentation reflects my view, not represent FDA's will or policies. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about an overview of nitrosamine safety assessment, and then followed with common pitfalls identified during our pharm tox review of submitted nitrosamine safety assessment. At the end, I'll provide some summary and recommendations. The term of nitrosamine refers to both small molecule nitrosamines and complex nitrosamines. Complex nitrosamines, also called nitrosamine drug substance-related impurities, is a structure unique to each drug substance and may contain activating and deactivating features and often have a higher molecular weight than small molecule nitrosamines. And importantly, complex nitrosamines do not have compound-specific carcinogenicity data. In contrast, the small molecule nitrosamines are known potent rodent carcinogens and probable human carcinogens. Largely based on study of small molecule nitrosamines, it's believed that nitrosamine require metabolic activation, specifically through alpha hydroxylation, to form reactive intermediate that can interact with DNA, form DNA adduct, and cause gene mutation and ultimately tumor formation. Nitrosamines belong to cohort of concern in SHM7 and require tighter control than typical mutagenic impurities. SHM7 apply compound-specific acceptable intake to limit nitrosamine cancer risk. The acceptable intake is allowed exposure that causes 1 per 100,000 cancer risks over the lifetime. So here I want to emphasize FDA's recommendation for nitrosamine safety assessment are based on science. FDA formed partnership with Health and Environmental Science Institute has actively contributed to advancing nitrosamine science. Within FDA, there are multidisciplinary group of experts. They support nitrosamine-related decisions and guidance development. Among them include research scientists from FDA's National Center for Toxicological Research. They conduct nitrosamine investigations on their mutagenicity, as well as metabolite activation of complex nitrosamines. Their research and the findings support and guide regulatory decision and guidance development. Within CDER, there's a nitrosamine safety team. They include pharm tox expert in both generic and new drug groups, and also include computational toxicology group. They not only coordinate pharm tox review effort on nitrosamine safety assessment, they also engage CDER's quality, compliance, drug shortage staff, regulatory policy expert for enhanced coordination. In addition, FDA participate in international harmonization effort for nitrosamine impurities. For example, they participate nitrosamine International Technology Working Group among different regulators, as well as participate ICHM7 nitrosamine addendum development to improved harmonization on nitrosamine assessment. When you ask an FDA pharm tox reviewer how to conduct a nitrosamine safety assessment, the simple answer will be follow FDA guidance for nitrosamine impurities. FDA recommends 3 approaches to determine the AI limit for nitrosamines. The first is carcinogenic potency categorization approach, also called CPCA. Also can be determined based on AI limit based on compound-specific data. The third approach is read across from a surrogate with robust carcinogenicity data. FDA provide 2 important nitrosamine-related guidance. First is the quality guidance for control of nitrosamine impurities in human drugs. The second one is the safety guidance, is the recommended AI limit for NDSRIs. We also refer it as real guidance. In addition, FDA established nitrosamine webpage that include comprehensive information related to nitrosamines. So in this nitrosamine webpage include updated guidance, the list of recommended AI limit for hundreds of nitrosamines, and also interim limits for certain nitrosamine impurities. The webpage also provides recommendations on analytical methods and the safety testing method. It's also offered initial guidance on emerging issues and provide direct communication with applicant to help agency to collect data and better understanding those issues. The webpage also provides implementation timelines for FDA recommendations and the request. The real guidance is really important for pharm reviewer to conduct nitrosamine safety assessment. It describes the use of a CPCA framework to establish an AI limit for NDSRIs without compound-specific data. Only the structure of nitrosamine are needed. And based on the structures that can affect alpha hydroxylation, which is critical for nitrosamine mutagenicity and carcinogenicity, they assigned numeric score for those features such as alpha hydrogen, activating and deactivating features, and which lead to the final potency score that corresponding 5 categories with acceptable AI limit from 26.5 nanogram per day for compound under category 1 up to 1,500 nanogram per day for those nitrosamines under potency category 4 and 5. The real guidance also recommend approaches to justify alternate AI limit. For AI limit up to 1,500 nanogram per day, FDA recommended negative enhanced amines assay, in vitro mammalian mutation assay, and in vitro metabolism study. For AI limit above 1,500 nanogram per day, additional negative in vivo mutagenicity assay using transgenic rodent model is recommended. Another approach is use read-across to a surrogate that's structure relevant with robust carcinogenicity data. Here, I want to point out for the nitrosamines, it tests negative in vivo mutagenicity. Currently, FDA does not automatically accept control limit at a level equal to ICH Q3A or Q3B qualification threshold. So with all those, the approach and recommendations on nitrosamine safety assessment, the pharmacology reviewer in OGD reviewed the submitted assessment and identified some common pitfalls. And this slide is listed top 3 pitfalls we identified. They include inadequate enhanced amines assay to assess mutagenicity, and you propose alternate AI limit solely based on the negative enhanced amines assay. And the third is improper use of a surrogate. I will discuss each of those pitfalls in a little bit more detail in the following slides. And following that, I will provide additional discussion of additional pitfalls identified in our reviews. When talking about inadequate enhanced amines assay, one common issue is did not test nitrosamine at a sufficiently high dose. The standard guideline recommend to test up to 5,000 microgram per plate if the test article did not cause severe toxicity. And we often see the submitted assays, they did not test the high level, even though without cause significant toxicity. Some nitrosamine did cause severe toxicity and cannot be tested at sufficiently high dose. That make those enhanced amines assay inadequate to really fully characterize their mutagenicity potential. Another issue is select the solvent. And some solvent, especially at a higher concentration, can interfere with metabolic activation which is critical for nitrosamine to cause mutation, and therefore, if the solvent interfere with metabolic activation, then make these assay inadequate. Also, we see assays did not include proper nitrosamine positive controls, and also did not include sufficient metabolic activation conditions. We also see a lot of justifications for alternate AI limit only based on negative enhanced image assay. As I mentioned previously, FDA recommend negative enhanced image assay and also in vitro mammalian mutation assay, as well as in vitro metabolism study focused on alpha hydroxylation in order to support the AI limit up to 1,500 nanogram per day. Here, I want to acknowledge that FDA's recommendation differ from the recommendation from other regulators. And we proposed this recommendation at a time, this started 2023. At a time, the information is limited, and the enhanced MSA is still under optimization. And there's a lot of uncertainties with the data. Therefore, we recommend additional assays to reduce the uncertainties. And since then, we receive a lot of data and also gain a lot of knowledge, but still there's a lot of a data gap. And also we see discordant data. So currently, we are actively assessing the data we have and also actively working with other regulators for harmonization. So talking about using read-across with surrogate, it is important to select the surrogate, the structure relevant. When you consider the relevance of structure, it is important to consider that the nitroso alert in the surrogate should be in the same chemical environment as the subject nitrosamines. In addition, they also should have a similar degree of substitution and steritic box features. In addition, electronic influences, metabolic activation potential, and stability and reactivity of the resulting metabolite should also be considered in addition to the overall molecular weight. And also, very importantly, the surrogate should have robust carcinogenicity data. So in addition to these top three common pitfalls, we also increasingly seeing the applicant applying approaches that are currently still under investigation. For example, they apply molecular weight or less than lifetime approach to adjust the AI limit, or set the AI limit based on in vivo mutagenicity data. Since those approaches still under investigation, including the assessment by ICH-M7, so currently FDA does not accept those approaches. And also, I want to emphasize, if the nitrosamine test positive for mutagenicity is required, we recommend to use the CPCA-based AI limit to be protective. Also, it's not acceptable to submit the general toxicity data to justify the AI limit. The general toxicity data is not designed to adequately characterize mutagenicity and carcinogenicity of the nitrosamines. Currently, the mutagenicity evaluation is the most critical evaluation for nitrosamine safety assessment. If in vivo study is necessary, we recommend to use transgenic rodent gene mutation assay. As I mentioned previously, FDA currently does not automatically accept the control of non-mutagenic nitrosamine at the level of ICH Q3A, Q3B, QT level. FDA considered the outcome from compound-specific assessment, such as determination of root of cause, and also applied mitigation approach to reduce the level in the products. And therefore, FDA, based on those assessment and the batch testing data, to set the control limit for those kind of nitrosamines. It's also not acceptable to set other regulators' AI recommendation without providing the supporting data or the right right of the reference for those data. It's also generally not acceptable to control nitrosamine at the level observed in the RLD. And also, it's not appropriate to consider interim AI limit as the final product control limit. So here is the summary. So to provide a successful nitrosamine safety assessment to FDA, we recommend to follow FDA nitrosamine guidance and use the CPCA-based AI limit for the nitrosamines without the compound-specific data. Also, we recommend to monitor FDA nitrosamine webpage for the latest update. And also, I hope my presentation demonstrates that Pharm talks in OGD conduct nitrosamine assessments based on the science through collaboration and harmonization. And if you have questions with those nitrosamines issues specific for your product, you can submit control correspondence and we can provide the product-specific response. So this is my last slide and provide some useful reference can help with nitrosamine safety assessment. And before I complete my presentation, I'd like to have a acknowledgement and highlight for the Pharm Talks group in OGD for their hard work and commitment for to protect the safety of generic drug. And without their work actually make this my presentation possible. So next, let me invite Dr. Kao for her presentation. Thank you.